This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today.
Hey, what's up, fellow modelers? Will here. Welcome to the Anson's Chair. So, last episode when I left off, I was finishing up the wings for the bird of prey, the big bird, and they're done at this point. They're mounted to the model. The model is pretty much done. There's a couple little things I've got to do, but everything, the major build of the model is complete. I do have some additional weathering I want to do to tone down some of the colors and kind of blend everything together that I had done earlier. So I'm going to work on that. We'll take a look at that a little bit. But what I mainly want to focus on this episode is I want to build a display stand for this model. Yes, I said build, because I don't want to just take it. I put so much time and effort into this model. I've been working on it almost a year now. And I put so much time and effort into it. It turned out really well in my opinion. I think it looks great. I'm really proud of it, and I want to make sure that I give it a proper display stand to put it on. I don't want to just, put it on for example, Polar Lights plain base dome and call it done. I want to build something for this. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, I did a couple videos that were dedicated just to building like a backlit display stand. But what I'm going to do with this display stand to really make it pop, I'm going to add some 3D printed parts that I designed that I actually took a couple design cues from the Star Trek movies and series. So we'll take a look at those and I'll talk about them and I'll show you how I'm building this display stand. So give me a minute, I'll put you on the bench, we'll get to work. Alright guys, so here's what I've got. This is basically, if you hadn't seen my previous display stand builds, this is typically what I start off with. It's a shadow box. This is a big one because it's a big model. It's getting a big base. It's 16 by 20. And I got lucky this time, just like I did with my Enterprise C. When I went to Hobby Lobby to pick one up, they were on sale for half price. So instead of this being 60 bucks, it only cost me 30, which is a pretty good deal. So I'll start off. This is basically going to be my foundation for building my box. And what I'm doing is I'm actually developing and printing some 3D parts that's going to really make this box look good. Now I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do as far as the main section here. I've got some there goes that. I've got some mirrored I guess a mirrored mat, you could say, a mirrored sticker that I can put on here, because I kind of want to be able to see the underside, because you do have that red pattern and a couple other things that I kind of want to be able to see without having to duck down and look under the model. If I make this a mirror, I'll be able to see that easily, and also when I display it at model shows and stuff, it'll be a lot easier to see that detail on the underside of the bird. But part of me also wants to do this as a backlit display, and there's a nice professionally made, well, I guess it's professionally made, it looks like it is. It's printed on film as far as a display for this. So I'm kind of on the fence about what I'm going to do with this yet. I don't know. Before I get to that part, I've got a couple other things I got to work out. So right now, what I'm working on is I've got this display frame that I'm working on. This is just a section of it, and it'll mount on the box like that. And this design pattern I got from a wall panel that was actually a prop used And one of the episodes in Next Generation, I think it was Brothers, or I forget what the title episode was, but one of the ones where Worf is highlighted in that episode. But so I've copied that. I've remade that pattern for this, and on the sides, which this is going to be the side, because the box is actually going to go like this, and this is a little hard to fit in frame, but the box is actually going to go like this, and this is going to be the top, and this will be the side here. So on the sides, I will also have a larger Klingon emblem on them. And on my corners, I've got corner pieces which will cover this seam, because that way I've got less, I'm lazy, I've got less seam work to worry about with this, and it'll be a really difficult seam because of this pattern here. So I just got a corner piece that's going to cover the corners. That way I don't have to worry about doing the seam work on that. I will have a seam in the middle, on the sides and on the top. And but on the front, I've also got this panel, this control panel here that I'm working on, which is going to mount to the front. And what I'll do is, once I got this ready, I will mark out where I need to cut this edge panel, and I'll just cut out what I need, and then that way this will fit flush in place. And this panel here I designed, if you watch Star Trek 6 and you look at the display screen, or the view screen, below the view screen there's this panel, and it's got this triangular shape to it, and this glows green, which this is going to glow green. I'm going to put a green light in the back, and it had a display panel on the top as well. The only thing I've added is these are going to be indicator lights, one for each switch, plus another one that's just going to blink. I'm probably just going to have that blink yellow, just so it has some effect to it. Something's always going, even if one of the, but these ones, these three here will be indicator lights for when the switches are on and off. And I've got a light switch, a switch that's going to control the model, a switch that's going to control the sound effects, because I want to be able to turn the sound effects on and off. If I've got this on display somewhere, I don't necessarily want the sound effects continuously going in the background with 20, 30, 40, 100,000 other models. So I want to be able to turn the sound off individually. And then I've also got, I'm going to have a switch to turn off everything but the model. This will turn off, this will control the lights for the display. So this will cut off all the lights on the display. That way, if I just want to see the model lit, I can do that. So those are my three control switches, and I'll have an indicator light for each of those when it's on and off. But that's my plan for that. And I'll have a graphic that'll go in here to fill this in. So that'll mount on the front, which this is actually the back, but it don't matter. And then I've also got this fire control panel box that you see in Star Trek 6. And I've got this mocked up so far. I've got a little more work to do on it. I'm going to probably paint this with some type of textured, it looks like in the movie, I'll pull up a shot here to show you of this. It looks like I might be able to achieve a close effect by using like a hammered type paint that gives like a hammered effect. So I'll probably try that on this and see how that turns out. And the majority of this, the rest of this will be probably like a brownish green. Not quite as green as the model itself. Most of the control panels that you see in like the show and in the movies are like a brownish color. So I want to do a bit of a more of that brown, which will probably be this Ceram coat, brown iron oxide. And then I'll put a touch of green. I won't go as heavy on the green as I did on the model, but I'll put enough there so that you get kind of a hint of the green. And I'll probably do some shading with the green, and then I'll do some washes with the black as well to give it kind of a worn down look, because I want the display to kind of match the model as far as looking kind of worn and beaten. So I've got this, and this is going to this will light red. It's going to blink red, and then these will all light green, just like in the screenshot. So that's going to look good, I think, and it's going to be a great feature to have on there. And I've got the speaker box that you see in that same shot printing. That's where that actually provides a good solution for where my sound effect speaker is going to go, right in the front. So I got that printing up, and other than that, that's pretty much what my plan is for this. Like I said, I still got to decide whether I'm going to do a backlit display or just do a mirrored effect on this so that you can see the underside of the ship. But I've got a lot of stuff to print up. Unfortunately, my M3 Max is down because I was using a clear resin to print up some of these parts. And this part here, and I don't know if I got a bad batch of that clear resin from Soraya Tech, but it ended up putting a hole in my FEP. So I've got to replace my FEP. I've got 2 more vats on order for it. That way I've always got a spare or 2. But I've also ordered some of the FEP itself to replace it because I don't know when those vats are going to get in. I want to get back up and printing as quick as possible. So I've got some of that FEP coming in, but it won't be until Tuesday. No pun intended. But that's fine because my screen protector my set of screen protectors for the M3 Max won't be until Wednesday. So I'm going to be down a couple days to just using my Photon Mono X to print. And hopefully the FEP on that holds up because it's constantly running at this point, just trying to get all these parts printed up. I've got to reprint this because I've made some changes to this. So that's got to be reprinted. And then, of course, I got to print all these. And I've also got the mounting rod that's going to go in the middle of this is going to also be a 3D print with what you heard fall here a minute ago. It'll be a 3D print, and it'll be reinforced with this this lamp rod will reinforce it, so that way I'm not just, I don't have that model just sitting on a piece of resin. But this is going to reinforce it, so that way it's got some strength and rigidity to it. And I will be able to customize that rod. I'll do some painting. I've actually got a lighting setup planned for that, and I'll show you that once I get it printed up. So give me a little bit. I'm going to do some more work on getting this stuff printed up and try to get as far as I can with it. I was hoping to have this video out this weekend, which is February 4th and 5th, but I probably won't have it out now till the following weekend because I've got to do all this printing, and I'm down to 1 printer. So I'll get as far as I can with it, and I'll update, and I'll put this video out as soon as I can. So just stay tuned. Alright guys, so here's where I'm at. I've been doing some work on these parts, and it's taking me a bit longer than what I'd planned to spend. So this video is probably not going to get, well, I can tell you this video is not going to get done with the build. I've got a couple of issues I run into. My FEP I need to replace still on my M3 Max, and a couple of these parts are too big to fit on my Photon X. So I'm going to have to wait until I get those replacement FEP, and then I've also got some screen protectors for the exposure screen that I've got to replace as well. So when those parts come in, then I'll be able to print the rest of this up. And it's also, my attention's been taken away a little bit. If you've been following my Facebook, you know that I ran into a little issue with my bird of prey where my wife stepped on the neck of it because I had it sitting in my closet because it's the only place in my house I can put my models and the cats won't get to them. Usually I put them on the shelf in my closet, but because this model's so big it wouldn't fit, so I had to lay it on the floor of my closet. Now all my other models that are unbuilt are in there taking up space as well, so I only had a little place I could put it. And unfortunately it was right in front of the door to the closet. Well, I put a big old sign on the door that said do not enter, and even said the model's on the floor. Well, she didn't heed that warning, and she stepped on the neck. So I had to repair the neck. The neck's all repaired now. It's all good to go. But fortunately I have prioritized getting my build studio done. And matter of fact, we'll take a look at that here in a little bit. I'll just take you out real quick and show you what I'm working on for that. But let's talk about this display stand. So I've been working on these parts. I printed up, I had to split this file in order. I want to go ahead and get it printed. And I would have had to split it anyway on the M3 Max because I couldn't quite, well, this one might have fit, but the front ones weren't going to fit. But I just went ahead and split this anyway. And I split it in half, printed it, glued it back together, and I've just got to do some sanding work on this. And I've got this Klingon emblem that I printed up that goes on the side here. And I've actually got the one side done. So once I get that sanded up and painted and the emblem on there, this is what it looks like. And you can see I purposely did these little slashes on here just to give it some depth, and I want it to look like this thing has been beaten up. And so that's what I did. So I did some little slashes in here with the paint. The paint I'm using for this is this Rust-Oleum Universal Forged Hammer paint and primer in one. And I'm thinking that I primed this before I used the paint, and I'm thinking I don't need to because the paint adheres way better. I noticed there's a couple parts where I tried painting without primering first, and this stuff adheres way better if you don't pre-prime the parts. So I would recommend, if you use this stuff, to not worry about priming the parts. The primer in this is plenty. It coats real nice, and it gives it a nice little bit of texture to it, which is exactly what I wanted with this. I wanted some texture to it. I may do some additional coloring to it, but we'll see. We'll take a look at it. But that's what it looks like. That's one of the side panels. And all I did was come back, once I got the emblem on, I did a little dry brushing with some, it's the titanium. I think it's like a gold titanium. But that's what I painted there, just a little dry brush on it, just to give it a little bit of a sheen. And I think it turned out real nice. So that's one side panel that's done. And I also got the speaker box painted up and ready to go. And I've got the photon control, which I still need to work on actuating, making the button so that it actually works. I haven't put any of the insides in yet. But that'll light up nice and green right here, and then the button will light up red. And those will get mounted on the panel. And both of these, like I said, both of these were inspired by you see this photon control panel. You see this photon control panel in Star Trek 6, and that's what inspired building these. You see the speaker box next to it, and that just works out real well for being able to put my speaker in for the sound effects. So I've got those painted up, ready to go, and get this stuff out of the way. I've also got my control panel, which again, this was inspired by the control panel that you see below the view screen in Star Trek 6 and General Chang's Bird of Prey. And let me see if I can get this to cooperate and wire up real quick. And there we go. And you see I've got green. I've got to do some more work on this yet. I got to paint the back of this green. I think it's going to give it a little bit better of a deeper green color. And also help diffuse those LEDs some in the back. I know you can see one here a little bit, looks like on camera. But I'll get that painted up green on the back. And then my switches, I've got these, I've had these little toggle switches for a while now. I bought these probably 3 or 4 years ago, and they've just been sitting in there. And they're a on and on switch, meaning that when I flip it one way, it's an on circuit. When I flip it the other way, it's an on circuit. If I just want to use it as a single switch, I can just wire up the one pole, and then just when I turn it off, it'll be off, and then when I turn it on, it'll be on. But I've actually used this to where when I flip it one way, it's a red light to indicate that the circuit's off, and when I flip it the other way, it's a green light to indicate that the circuit is on. And this one here, since I had I had one more light on here than what I needed, I just went ahead and put a blinking yellow light in there just to give it some animation, so it's continuously got something going on with it. And I didn't want too much green, because these are all green, this is green, so I wanted to throw something in there with a little bit different color. So I've got a yellow light in there. The only issue I'm having is I'm getting a little bleed over from this green and this green into this yellow here. I should have light blocked in here before I sealed this up, and I have no way of getting in there now, because all I've got in the back is the little 3mm hole that the 3mm LED goes into. I thought about dropping a little paint in there on the sides, but then I was worried about the paint getting up into the clear and just messing it up, and then this whole piece is a waste. So it's just going to have to do for now. Next time when I do one of these, I'll know that before I put my UV resin in here to seal it up, to go ahead and light block the sides, so that way I don't get that bleed over. But Other than that, it turned out nice. I like the way it turned out. This is going to have a backlit display, just like you see in the movie. It's going to have a backlit display on it, which I've got to figure out what I'm going to put there yet. And I've also got to do the lighting in here to backlight that. But that's turning out nice. I like the way it's going to work. And this will just mount to the front of that frame and allow me to control all the lights and everything on the model. So we got that is done. And what I'm working on now is the mounting rod itself. And you can see here I've got this piece here that I designed in Tinkercad. And basically this brass lamp rod, I just threaded it up. I made the hole in the middle big enough to where it would just thread onto this rod. And this bottom part here will just slide on from the bottom and will come up. And what I've done with this bottom part is, you see here, I've added some LEDs to some little pieces that stick out. And what that's going to do is cast a little bit of light on the underside of the bird of prey to help light it, which I think should give it a cool effect, hopefully. But they're not very bright, so it's probably not going to do anything unless you turn the lights out, which is really what it's intended for anyway. Is just give a little extra light to the bird when the lights are out. So I've got that wired up, and that pole will slide down in here, and I've got a little hole drilled in to where the wires will run into the pole and then down to the bottom. And that'll get all connected up. But I'll be working on wiring that up here in a little bit. And for this end part where it's going to attach to the model, I went online and bought one of these. I think these are aviation connectors. And I don't need this whole big thing, but these come apart. And basically what I've done with this part here unscrews out. And I don't really need this part because it's just a lot of bulk I don't need. So I got this one little piece, and this has got my 5 pins on it that I will use to connect my 5 wires that are going to run down to the base from the model. And what I've done is I've made this opening just big enough for this to slide down in there. And I'll epoxy this whole, there's a little bit of a cavity behind this. Once I get it wired up and get it ready to go in place, I'll fill that cavity with epoxy because I don't want a weak point here where it's going to mount. So I'll fill that with epoxy. This will be epoxied in place. All my wires will now run down the brass tube here and come out the end. And this part here, I don't need this piece. Now I just got to figure out what I did with my my other part for this. Alright guys, sorry about that. It took me a minute to find the part. I'm always having to hide stuff to keep it from my cats, so it took me a second to remember where this was at. This is actually a part that I got off of Thingiverse, and it's a ball joint mount, and I went and modified it. I made it larger first of all, but then I went and modified it to where this part will just fit flush in here now. You can see, and then what that does is it fits perfectly in here to where when I go to mount it on this ball, it'll mount perfectly in place. And the ball just gives me kind of a guide for this to fit on. I'm not worried about it being able to pivot or that. I don't need it to do that. I just wanted something to where it would make it a little bit easier to guide this into place and have it sit. So that's going to work out real nice. It fits nice on there. There will be there's a nut that goes on the bottom here, which is right here. But I think I've got to make this one a little bit bigger. But that's going to work fine. It's going to work out nice. So, but I do have to do some reinforcing to the hull of the ship because this isn't going to connect directly to the metal plate. I'm going to have to make a additional plate on the inside of the hull that this will bolt to, and then that plate will have, what I'll probably do is do some dowels that'll connect to the metal plate to transfer the weight to the metal plate itself. So that way everything's not sitting on that resin hull, and it'll also thicken up the hull a bit, so that way it can support a little more weight as well. But I think that's going to turn out nice. It should mount perfectly, and that's pretty much it. I've got these corners as well. I didn't really go into them. I've got to paint these up yet. I've got to do a little bit of cleanup on them still. But you can see it's got the Klingon emblem on there as well. So these will go on each corner. And just tell you the inspiration for this is actually something that came off of Thingiverse as well. And these are modeled after the crates that Kirk and Spock blow up in Errand of Mercy, I believe it is. And so these are modeled after that. And like I said, everything else is pretty much modeled after Star Trek 6 parts. And then the inspiration for this design on my my frame here actually came from, I'll show you a picture, it came from this prop that was used in The Next Generation for one of the Klingon centric episodes. I don't remember which one. But it was actually auctioned off not too long ago. That's what these images are from. But that's where I got that pattern from to put on the frame. So, you know, everybody gets inspiration from somewhere. I decided to get some inspiration from different areas of Star Trek involving Klingons. And it's turned out pretty well so far. I like the way this is going. I'll get it all together in the next episode, and hopefully we'll get that model mounted and we'll get to see the finished product. But I'll tell you what, if you're interested, give me a minute. I will take you out and I will show you the progress on my build studio, and we'll wrap it up out there. So give me just a minute. All right, guys, so here's my project I'm working on out here. Working on changing this shed over to a build studio. And you can see I still got quite a bit of work to do, and I've kind of been pushing to get this done since if you don't follow me on Facebook, my wife, God bless her, went in my closet and accidentally stepped on my bird of prey, which was laying on the floor. As I explained, it was the only place I could put it for now, and that has kind of pushed me to get this done. So I've been out here working on this, which is why I haven't been putting out much as far as videos. That and being out of town a lot, that's typical for me. But I've been working on this a lot, so I really haven't had time to get a lot of build videos out. You can see that end, I've still got a lot of work to do. Still got all that stuff I got to clear out of here, but I'm kind of working on this one end, getting it done. A lot of this stuff has to be moved over to that steel shed you see out there, which is getting replaced. Which is originally what I was going to do for my build shed. I was going to replace that shed and use that as my build studio. Well, the new shed that I got in place of it. And this was going to be all for storage. But then this would have taken a lot of work to make it accessible for the lawnmower and all that. Would have to put a big door on it. And this was already wired for electricity. So just better to go this way. And that's what I'm working on. And it's coming along. It's just taking a lot of time. I'm going to have a couple different stations set up. My build bench is going to be on that far end that I showed you that's getting drywalled now. And then back behind me is going to be a sectioned off area where I'm going to have my painting booth and my 3D printers are all going to be. So that way I might have a ventilation system set up for that, so that way it vents outside. And I'm not sitting here breathing all this stuff in when I go to paint something during the world while I've got something printing in 3D. So a lot of work to do still, but it's coming along. So take a little time to get it done, but once it's done, it's going to be nice. I've already got a nice painted picture of the Enterprise to put up behind my desk. So as soon as I get this done, I'll be ready to roll. But that's it for this video, guys. I'm sorry I didn't really get a whole lot done on this one. I think this video is still running kind of long. So we'll go cut this one off, and then hopefully
when I come back on my next video, I'll be able to finish up the base. And I've actually got, you can see, this is going to be kind of a build island for me. I'm going to use this in the middle. That way I've got my tools here. And the top will be for things such as the big bird of prey, which doesn't really fit anywhere right now. I can put it on there and work on it and be able to walk around it. It's just going to be a lot easier to deal with now, rather than it's sitting on my dinner table, which is against the wall, and it's hard to get to. So good things coming along. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But again, anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody that's watching these videos and giving me feedback. And if you're learning something from it, awesome. Do these videos to hopefully share something. So hopefully other people will learn stuff and get into the modeling. So anyway, guys, again, please visit my comrades in arms, Gus over at GCals, and Cass over at Lake Monster. Cass over at Lake Monster Details. Make sure you give them some love, and we will see you here again on the next episode. Till then, keep modeling.